Hello everybody, welcome to another video demo critique. Hopefully you guys have had a really nice spring break and are energized to start work on the final project. Now remember that the thumbnails and the value studies both are due this week. So if you need me to take a look at your thumbnails before you do your value studies like Naomi here, please don't hesitate to tag and flag me so I can get to you and give you a little mini critique and maybe help you choose which thumbnails to move forward with. However, if you're more inclined to pretty much choose which one you'd like to move forward with, I'd like you to take a look at your thumbnails first. Like for example, Naomi's here, really good variety of thumbnails, and half of it very traditional with the tortoise and the hare story, with the tortoise and the hare racing towards the finish line, and the other half of it, her own spin on it, which is really good. Putting the settings instead of like a foot race, more of a drag race or a car race around the track with a crowd in the back. I think that's really good way to put the spin on it. And yeah, so now I did this video because I really want you guys to take a look at yours and see whether or not your angles and whether angles and perspective are really played around with. For Naomi's here, the biggest critique I have here is that everything is sort of seen at eye level. We're seeing it as if we're sitting in the mid row of that racing stadium, and we're just sort of looking at it at eye level. What I want Naomi to do is to choose the best one. For example, let's say number 3 with the more original spin on it, and really play around and do some more thumbnails if you want to, which I highly suggest. Do more thumbnails, really play around with that specific thumbnail, play around with different angles and perspective. For example, here I look for different references, in particular this one is from Fast and the Furious, of that scene right here with the two cars side by side, except this time you're kind of looking at it through the passenger seat of one of the cars. Now, and I look through different references. You don't have to go, with the same references. You can pick references from everywhere. It could be, a Forza racing competition reference. It could be anything that could help you really put a different spin to the thumbnail and really let you play around with the different angles and perspective. So these two references right here, I'm gonna create a thumbnail using this particular scene, number 3, and my references here to help support that idea. So, and another thing I kind of did cover earlier is that although this is totally fine, like having thumbnails, especially if you a format in mind, and you really want to stick with that format, doing this, copy and paste the format, and then doing the thumbnails inside of it, that's totally fine. Like I said, if you have a size in mind already, that's great. But I didn't give you guys a specific size aside from a horizontal composition. So really play around with different sizes while you're doing your thumbnails and really allow yourself to maybe do a really long horizontal composition, taking in a little bit more of the environment along the way. Or if you're trying like this one right over here, or if you want it to be a little bit more intimate, then you could go for a bit of a shorter, less of a widescreen horizontal composition, so that it feels more intimate and everything is closer together. So yeah, it really depends, and I really want you guys to really play around with that as well. But doing this, having a specific specification in mind, that's great too. So yeah, let's take these two right here, references I found of Fast and the Furious, just by going to web search Fast and the Furious thumbnails or racing scene is pretty much what I typed in. And I got these two specific ones that I just, pulled. So, let's create a thumbnail out of this. Just these two specific references. Now, again, realistically, maybe you're going to do this in little tiny segments, but I'm going to show you guys just one here. So let me make a larger thumbnail just to show you guys. And then from here, I'm gonna look at that composition and sort of mimic it and see where I can place the tortoise in the shell. Now, when you're doing your thumbnails, you also want to keep in mind which, if you have more than one character, which character you want to push forward and be the main character. For this one, I always felt like the tortoise was the main character, right? So I want to push that main character towards the front. Even though in my mind, I want that tortoise to look out of the window with the hare here, almost seeing the hare sort of taunting him, and us not seeing the tortoise. I want him up front so that I want everybody to know this is my main character. So I'm sort of just using my references here as a guide. Again, this would be better if you're doing it in little thumbnail versions like this. Sort of like that. And then make bigger thumbnails so that you can add more details to it later on. But I'm just showing you guys how my process usually is. So that I can get the best possible angle and perspective to showcase the story. So here, and then maybe holding onto that wheel like this. So, and then I want to add that frame here. So I'm looking at this frame here, maybe it's not as exciting, but I really like the frame where we're looking up. So let me try to mimic that. So we see a little bit more of the top of the roof of the car. Again, this is just a thumbnail. I could study this a little bit more when I'm doing my fine details. But this is the top of the car, and then maybe this is the front windshield. And here is the tortoise just looking out of the window. And then here's a side mirror here. And then maybe outside, let me try a different color here for this one. Just so that I know which one is outside and inside. Another car here. And maybe the tortoise is outside here, taunting him as he is driving the other car right next to him. Although we get to see the hare's face, and not see the tortoise face, even though I want the tortoise to be the main character, I am going to use maybe atmospheric perspective or motion blur to sort of just hide a little bit of focus, or keep that secondary character, which is the hare, out of focus so that he still reads as the main character. So basically this is the same exact scene here, only this time we're looking at it through the inside of the car, through that car into the next one where we see story taking place. Now this one is really good too, but at the same time we're not focusing on the character itself, rather we're kind of focusing on the cars. However, we can still do this where we focus on the car by adding characteristics to the car that would, add more details to them and add more character to them. So in this one right here, it's basically the same thing except the references that I found is sort of flipped. Now, if you find references like this and you really want to use it, but you really want it to face a different way, easy. Just drag the image over to your document, and then edit, transform, flip horizontal, so you can flip it. So it's almost the exact same scene as the one here. Here I just typed in drag racing, or cars drag racing on Google Images, and after searching through the different images, this is what I found. Like I said, since we're not going to be seeing the characters here and they're going to be inside the car, I want to add details to the car themselves. So let's create a thumbnail here. So for this one, maybe I'm going for a longer composition. Utilize your layers if you like, so I could erase it and not have to start all the way over if I have to. And this time, like I said, I'm going to add more characters to the car. So the foreground character, I still want it to be. I no, rather, I still want the tortoise to be the main character. So I have to decide which one I would like to focus on. Is it going to be the foreground car or is it going to be the background car? Let's say for the foreground car, I want it to be the hare, because right now the hare is sort of winning initially at the start of the gate. So just based on how it's lifting off of the ground, so maybe the hare is sort of just zooming past the tortoise right now. So I'm gonna bring more focus to that background by making this a little bit sharper compared to this one right here, where I'm gonna add maybe a blur effect or atmospheric perspective, put in a shadow, do what I can to make sure that the main character remains to be the area that you want focused on. So let me just create another layer here. So let me start by kind of just penciling this in. Right now, I don't have to do details, but I want to start adding in a couple of few little characteristics in there to show that, this car belongs to whoever this character is and whatnot. And then I'm gonna establish my horizon line here, just like this. Use your references to help push your thumbnails. Until you become like an art savant where you can just draw whatever is in your mind, you need references to help you. I use them all the time. I'm not saying go out there and copy it and pass it as your own. Rather, take a bunch of references, pick bits and pieces from each one of them, and then compile them into an original illustration. And then for the tortoise, maybe I'm going to put it just a little bit further here. Like so. Who knows, you could decide later that this will be the tortoise's car and that would be the hare. Because you really want it in the foreground rather than the background. That's really up to you. But you have to bring focus to the main character. That's pretty much your job as an illustrator. You're also a storyteller, so you have to tell the story. Who do you want us to focus on? And after you decide on who the focus is, you have to, plan it out and make sure that the audience knows, the hierarchy. So maybe this is going to be the hare. So like I said, add characteristics to it. Maybe the hood ornament is like a nose, or maybe a carrot. Make it very hare eccentric or rabbit eccentric, or maybe give it little bunny ears, like this. And then maybe the bumper is going to be some kind of a like sort of how a bunny what do you call that? The front of the face looks like. And if you need help trying to figure out how the design of the car would look like, you don't want it to be too realistic, look up how cartoonists do it and other illustrators, how they illustrate cars, to make it really cute and, make it be really, fit the type of story that you are trying to tell. So look up your favorite artist. I'm not saying to copy their style. Maybe, take a little inspiration from them, and that's totally good too. And maybe the tortoise, maybe it's a little bit slower, so maybe make it a little bit bigger. And have a big old shell in the background. In the back of it. Maybe it's like a van. Maybe a sports car versus a van. That's why it's really, really, really slow. Office hours. Sorry about the office hours, guys. And then you could put the background here with the people in the stands. Or maybe I'll just ditch this completely and maybe set it in the forest. and put little tiny animal creatures in the background watching the race happen, so that I don't have to draw in all those other characters on the stand. We make this like a dirt road, and maybe characters here watching it in the foreground. So you really have to set it up. Let us know how the scene is going to be like. Set the mood, set the time of day, set the lighting. You're the storyteller. Really focusing on telling a story. So again, I kind of mentioned it in a post last week. I think the most successful, or the best way to do it, to find the most success in creating a really eventful story, is to pick your story, number one, and then out of that story, choose a scene. Like, stay within that scene. Don't try to go over it. Like, for example, Snow White and the Seven Dwarf. Maybe you want to depict the scene where the prince finally goes to Snow White's coffin. Stay in that scene. Find different ways using the thumbnails to showcase that exact scene. Don't start jumping around and start doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in the cabin, or the dwarves in the mines. Don't like disregard those. Focus on that one particular scene. Play around with it. Different angles, different perspectives, different ways to showcase how that scene is going to be seen. Maybe put the camera. You're the director. Put the camera inside the glass coffin, so that we're looking at the really close up of Snow White's face, and then maybe the background is the prince walking over. Or maybe put it up high. It's not as dynamic, but when you put that camera up high, doing like a semi bird's eye view, we're seeing the whole scene play out with the characters and the forest creatures around, paying their respects to Snow White and the prince walking in, alongside the pathway to get to the coffin. So you're the storyteller. Really, really tell that story. And finally, once you do the thumbnails and do your value studies, that's when you start doing a little bit of character design and a little bit of environment design. Figure out what kind of twist you want to put in it. Don't try to emulate Snow White from Disney, or else you're pretty much just copying Snow White from Disney. Maybe set Snow White in a dystopian future, or set Snow White in feudal Japan, dark hair, pale skin, red lips. Make her still be Snow White, but maybe have a kimono on, or make it super elaborate. Set in, I'm not sure, Russia. Like, give it like a lot of fur, and look up Russian iconography, like Times of the Tsars and Anastasia. Like, give it a little bit of punch of originality in there. So yeah, just so that you won't hear me talking too long here. If you guys need any help, or have any concerns or questions, please let me know. And by the way, I'm recording this Friday. Tomorrow, Saturday at 4 p.m. 2 p.m. Pacific time, I am going to be doing another hangout, where I'm going to demo either character design, or maybe environmental design, or maybe even if you guys just want to show your thumbnails and do a little bit of critique, we could do that. It's really up to you guys. Hopefully a lot of you guys could show up. I posted the details yesterday, so you should find that in the instructor's office. If you still can't find it, again, just tag or flag me, and I'll point you to the direction of the link and all that stuff. So yeah, hopefully I see a lot of you guys tomorrow. If you can't make it, I'm going to be recording it, so you guys could watch it on your own time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helps you guys out. Again, thumbnails value studies due this Sunday. If you guys need help picking out your thumbnails, post them early, and I'll try to get to it as soon as I can. Alright, that's pretty much it. Thanks guys. Have a great one. Till the next video.